Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, rumblings about the leadership are nothing new for the Prime Minister, and this week the threat seems to be coming from unhappy Brexiteers. Well, my next guest knows a thing or two about leading the party and the plots that can bring leaders down. Iain Duncan Smith, thanks very much for being with us today. Lots to talk to you about. Brexit, you know, you've written this article about the EU acting like a playground bully. But I'm keen to start off with abortion after, of course, that historic day
vote, really,
in Ireland. Yeah, exactly. Do you think the pressure's going to be now on Northern Ireland to change the law?
I'm sure that pressure will grow. There's no question about that, because one bit of Ireland has voted for it, and so Northern Ireland will have to take a decision about it. I think the issue is, to what degree is this a devolved matter? And I understand it to be a devolved matter, and it comes under the banner, as you were saying earlier on, of health. And the Irish Secretary, Karen Bradley, has actually said already that she says it's a devolved matter. The problem, of course, is at the moment there is no devolved government. So, but I'm sure this will have to be discussed by them as well.
Do you think that when I was speaking to Jonathan Ashworth earlier, he was talking about the idea of a free vote in the House of Commons. There does seem to be more MPs calling for some kind of intervention, perhaps by Westminster. Is that something that you could support, overruling Northern Ireland politicians?
Well, there are two elements to this. You can't stop the House of Commons having a free vote on something if the political parties agree to express their view on it. The question is whether legally anything that we express on this is binding, because it's a devolved matter. And this is complex at the moment because the government has not wanted to take back the powers from Northern Ireland, because that's very complex then and governed directly. So they've rejected that and tried to get the two sides to meet together to make a decision about this. This might be the spur that helps get them back to the table again, to get the administration back in place.
How would you vote? Would you like to see abortion decriminalised in Northern Ireland?
Well, as I say, Northern Ireland is not my remit, but I have always said that my view about this, and I say it as a Catholic, my view has always been that whilst abortion is a very difficult and terrible thing, nonetheless, I've always taken the view that the person that bears the child is the one that has the right to make the final decision. Hopefully, obviously, that's well informed, but certainly it's her decision, and that's where I've stood in all of these debates. But it's always been an individual vote. I recognise some people don't agree with me on that, and others will take a different view. But as I say, you know, like the vote yes in Ireland, I'm sure at some point there will be some kind of debate about this in Northern Ireland.
Are you comfortable with a 28-week limit in the UK?
I've always maintained that now, with science the way it is, with medical science the way it is, there is an argument to look again at the time scales, particularly issues around children who have disabilities, where I think there are no timescales, and I think there are some element and some debate about that. But that's a matter the House has already looked at once, may look at again.
And you would vote for that to come down?
Well, I think there is certainly, as far as I can see, an argument to suggest that the timescales may need to be looked at again, but I say it no more strongly than that, really.
OK, well, let's move on to Brexit, because it seems like there's lots of talk at the minute about lengths of transitions, about how long we will stay in a customs union with. When I spoke to David Gauke earlier about prisons primarily, but he certainly didn't rule out the idea of the UK staying in a customs union beyond 2020. Are you worried that the time frame for the kind of Brexit you want seems to be slipping?
Well, I would argue to the government generally that the more you talk about something might be happening, the more it becomes the rule. The answer is, I don't see any reason why there should be a need for us to be staying in a customs union beyond 2020. You know, providing we get on, make the decision about the kind of customs system we want, we work at that to get it done and understand what is the minimum we require in that system to achieve a proper set of borders, then there's no reason why we can't do it. We have the time. You know, there's some 2 years to go before we even do that, including all of the implementation period. I think there's plenty of time to get this done. But, I mean, the trouble is everyone starts thinking you can't do something. Before you know what's happened, civil service then don't work at it, and we become...
So you think that's happening? The civil servants perhaps dragging their feet?
I've implemented in government 3 very major IT programmes, and it's where you direct people and the way you look at it. And the key thing to look at is what is the minimum you require to be able to function your borders, and you can go on then developing it after that. And at the moment, what tends to be going on, there's an argument that says, well, perfection looks like this, and you can't achieve perfection in time to leave.
And who's pushing that?
You don't have to achieve
civil
perfection.
servants, politicians, Theresa May?
Well, I think when politicians start talking about what an IT system looks like, you should run for cover, because they invariably don't fully understand it. The second element is, what's needed, I think, is for people to sit down quietly and calmly and figure out what is the minimum required to achieve our objective of leaving at the end of 2020, and work directly backwards from that, not the other way around, which is how can we achieve all of this? The answer is, what do we need to achieve? How do we achieve that in the timescale? And I think it's wholly doable.
You see, it's interesting. Like you're sitting here, you seem remarkably relaxed about the idea that we're going to get a deal that's going to benefit everybody. And yet, if you look at how the EU have been, you write in this article that they've been acting like playground bullies, and they have been taking an extraordinarily tough line on things like Galileo, the satellite system, on things like the European arrest warrant, on things like not discussing trade until we've sorted out the divorce. And I don't understand how you can be so relaxed about it when they are clearly playing hardball and it feels like the government's caving in on things.
Sophie, I'm not relaxed about it. I'm just answering the question that you're asking about what we can do in terms of the borders. That's in our control completely. I'm not relaxed about the behaviour of the EU, far from it. I think the EU, as I say in my piece today, is behaving as though they want to somehow bully us. And the reason for that is quite clear. If you peel away all the nonsense that Monsieur Barnier talks almost all the time, as far as I can make out, what you end up with is a real fear in the EU that the UK will be a competitor, and a rather good competitor, to the EU. And that means that they are worried. And when they're worried, they hide it. They hide it by a lot of blather, which is going on about what they want, what they demand. The UK has got to recognise we have some quite serious cards to play, and they do not want, absolutely do not want us to walk away with no deal at this point, because no deal would mean we'd be completely free to set whatever arrangements we want around trade and regulations. And as we know, lots of the countries in the EU are very worried about that. So my answer is we need to be pretty tough with them and stop looking like we constantly beg them to give us an answer about what they want. The answer is, put it on the table. This is what we're going to do with the borders. We're not going to discuss it any further. Ireland and the UK can sort the border issue out in terms of the flexibility.
But we haven't really come up with an idea in Northern Ireland that's going to work, have we?
The idea is very simple. You have exactly what they call the max fact, which is the border process, which even the head of the HMRC said is wholly doable, will not lead to great friction.
But it's going to cost more money.
By the way,
than
that is complete
cost.
Rubbish. I've looked at this very carefully. It's nothing like that.
So he's talking rubbish, is he?
Well, because he was given a calculation, lazy calculation, made, and all sorts of issues about, do you count every single bit of goods inside a container, or do you count containers as one thing? The answer is, there's a very good paper being published which says it's complete nonsense. All of that stuff needs to be binned. The reality is we're leaving. We need to get a proper customs system in place. We already have a good customs system for external goods. It works. We need to enhance that for the rest of the UK. It's not inventing something from nothing. It's about dealing with what we already have and making it work.
Now, I wonder if you could clear something up for me, because I'm slightly confused about this idea that the EU can simultaneously be a kind of playground bully, bureaucratic, interested in punishing the UK, and also we're going to get a great deal at the end of the day. I just want to have a quick look at something you said in the referendum campaign, which is, we're the 5th largest economy in the world. Are you telling me that with a trade deficit with the rest of the EU, we aren't going to be able to arrive at a deal? I don't think so. I think they'll do that straight away. But if they're a playground bully, they're not going to do that straight away, are they? And they haven't done.
Well, because we haven't forced the issue. What we need to do is make it very clear that that is the key element to all of this. The EU has done this and divided it up into these 3 elements so that they can try to control the whole negotiation, get what they want from the early stages.
This can't come as a surprise to you that they were going to do this.
I'm not in the slightest bit surprised. So my point is...
Why did you ever think that they were going to do that?
Because I believe that they will have to come to a trade arrangement. If they don't, they're the ones that will be severely damaged by it, by the way.
And us. And the UK.
Well, no, the EU will be severely damaged. They sell more in goods to us, dramatically more than we do to them. We are an enormous market for their cars, for their machine tools, and France's agriculture pretty much needs us to be able to keep their economy going. So the point I'm simply making is, as the single largest trading partner for the EU, and that is what we are, 5th largest economy in the world, we need to put our foot down a bit more and say, do you know what? We're not even going to get to this. If we don't get to this, it's your fault, your problem. but give us a call when you want to talk about trade.
Tough talk. Now, the woman in charge of sorting all this out, of course, is Theresa May, and I'm interested to know your opinion on her current position, because the papers this week have been full of alleged ideas to depose her. You know, The Sun claim it's Michael Gove and Ruth Davidson. We've got Jacob Rees-Mogg, apparently, in the Mail on Sunday. How long do you think she's got left?
Well, I think she's doing a pretty good job, because it's not easy, really, trying to keep a government in place which doesn't have...
Not quite what I asked, though, is it?
Well, I'm going to come to your answer, an overall majority. So the answer I always say is, if you are thinking about it, and some have talked about it, I ask, what do you actually want? Because, A, we haven't got the time for a leadership election, because we've got very busy and important things going on at the moment with regards to Europe and the negotiations and settling all of that. And secondly, even if you wanted it, I don't think there's more than 3 people together in the Conservative Party that actually know what they want. So my answer to this is, Theresa May is doing a good job in very difficult circumstances, and it's far better for colleagues, if there are some colleagues talking to the likes of you and others about this, far better if they just shut up a little bit, got on and said, let's get this job done. And if she wants to stay, it's up to her.
Are you hearing people talking to you about removing Theresa May?
Strangely, no one talks to me about that, because my opinion is pretty public and clear. I'm not interested in discussing leadership, because I just think genuinely, as a governing party, we owe it to the British people to get on and deliver Brexit. And that's what they voted for, and we are seen as the Brexit party. And if we do it right, we have a very good chance then, over the following 2.5 years, to actually get the economy sorted, in the sense that by the time we run to the election, we could actually win a very strong majority because of our delivery. But if we spend our time rowing about leadership, my answer is then we will get what we row about, which is nothing.
OK, thank you very much, Iain Duncan Smith.